Hey friends, this is Rachel Picard, and we are on episode 15 of the Soul CEO podcast. And if you guys are new here, make sure you smash that subscribe button. And I know you guys don't have to, but I really appreciate it if you leave a 5-star review or 5-star rating and leave a written review. I have a feeling you're going to want to absolutely binge this podcast. The ratings, the comments, the messages I've been receiving so already, it is blowing me away. I'm so grateful that we have this little community and we are helping network marketers and entrepreneurs build a profitable business without losing their family, their friends, or their soul. And this episode is very important. I have a feeling in the future we're going to reference it a lot because we are talking about one of the topics that I'm super passionate about and a tool that I have been using now for going on I would say about 12 to 13 years inside of my business and my personal relationships. And the coolest part is I have a co-host. Sitting here. And I've known this guy for, going on like 36 years now, right? So I'm sitting here with my Papa Frita, my amazing father, Laurence Seybold. So you can say hi to everybody, Dad.
Hi, listeners. So happy to be here.
So
we're going to fight for mic time, I can tell.
Okay, so it's like, it might be Laurence, it might be Papa Frita, it might be PF, Papa Frites. There's a lot of nicknames, and Papa Frita is French fry, and he's 6 foot tall and thin, and so that's how he got the nickname. But you know, this is beyond just my dad, right? Just beyond my birth father.
It is.
Laurence, you are my counselor, my friend, my best friend. You are, I call you like my Christian Buddha, my Confucius. I call you when I need, guys, I'm not even joking. Every single time I'm in a pickle, usually relationally, I call you. And you've actually, it's beyond tactics. You've given me scripts, verbiage. He is a master at emotional intelligence. And it's been so fun, I think, to watch you grow up and grow up underneath you, to see you use these tools to connect with strangers, to build fostering relationships and insane retention in your business. And so I want to start off, before we're going to get into the topic, we're going to talk about personality types. Personality typing, a very simple system that all of you guys can begin to kind of investigate and use to be better spouses, better parents, better siblings, better uplines, better downlines, better, real estate agents or mortgage brokers or whatever you're doing. It's going to make you a better human. And I just really, really love this topic of personality types. And we're going to talk about colors, red, yellow, green, and blue. And, but first off, before we dive into that, Papa Frita, tell the audience, all of our soul CEOs, a little bit about your story. You are a salon owner, but your story wasn't that. That wasn't like your passion. You're like, hey, I want to cut hair for a living. It's kind of funny how you ended up there, and now you've built up this insane organization. I'm going to brag on you. Your business, this salon, has done tens of millions of dollars in revenue.
That's right.
And I asked you just a few minutes ago, and I said, how many interactions, appointments have you done? Because you actually still cut hair, color hair. You're a master colorist, and you're insanely talented at what you do. And it's over 70,000.
70,000. Yeah. I had to let that sink in for a little bit, right? Because, even when I mentioned that to my young people, their eyes kind of like, what?
Whoa.
Because those are 70,000 human stories that I'm either following or continuing or starting new. And you can't help but absorb so much knowledge from that and insight. And, it was interesting.
You have a case study of the human condition.
Absolutely. And, I started out in this business accidentally. I kind of backed into it because I wanted to be a psychotherapist. And, as we all know with our stories, they take, U-turns and go sideways. And so I ended up in hairdressing. Did it for I'm going to say maybe 5, 6 years, 7 years. And I had a crisis of confidence. I thought, what am I doing here? I wanted to make a big difference in people's lives. And I had somebody say, well, you're just doing hair, right? That's no big deal. You're making women's hair frou-frou. And that happened at a wedding reception. I thought, I walked away like, really? I'm not making any difference?
Yeah.
But, I
It's like
stuck.
pulling the carpet from underneath you. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I just spent most of my 20s building up my little job, and you're just telling me
Absolutely.
I'm a nothing burger.
Right, absolutely. And so I thought about that and reflected really for a couple of years on that. But at this point, I started to have clients come in and share with me stories about things that I had told them, comments, reflections, feedback. Sometimes they ask you, with hairdressers, they want your opinion.
You're a therapist that makes you beautiful.
We are.
You really are. Like, I mean, and
Yeah.
a good hairdresser is also a comedian. It's a life coach. I mean, like, it's so many things. It's like, hey, I get like free quote unquote therapy with highlights.
I'm a therapist that covers gray. So so I started to realize as people were coming to me, and can I share one story quick with you?
Yeah, do it.
I had a young woman who came to me and I did nice things. She was a very attractive young lady, and she would come, and a lot of times she would ask for my suggestion. I say, why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? And she'd always go, well, yeah, that would be fun, but I don't think my boyfriend would like it. He wouldn't, no, he doesn't like that. And that kind of went on for a couple of years. So I was always very gentle in what I suggested. And she came in one time and she was a pretty outgoing person. She was very down. And I said, gee, what's the matter with you today? This is not like you normally. She says, oh, my boyfriend broke up with me. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. What happened? She said, well, it's hard to talk about, but, I just can't talk about it. So we did that appointment and it just didn't feel normal, kind of off. Yeah. She came back next time. She had a big smile on her face. And I said, well, did you guys get back together? She says, no. She says, I want to tell you and I want to thank you, Laurence, for the best thing you ever did for me. And I went, well, yeah, I always try and do a nice job with your hair. And she says, no. She says, every time I came to see you, you made me feel special and look great. And when my boyfriend broke up with me, he said, who else is going to want you? Nobody's going to want to be with you. And I realized from what you told me that what he was saying was a lie. Mm-hmm. And now I'm happy and I'm dating somebody new. Mm-hmm. And you turned my whole life around. And for me, that was one of those moments where not only was it a responsibility, but I went, no, I have a platform here with people where I can make a significant difference. Today, I want to do even more with, my blog that I've talked to you about. Mm-hmm. That'll be launching in the next couple months. But, I now can say I've done hair for about 48 years and I've been by people in their best moments, their weddings and when they've had children. I've been with one woman who lost everyone in her family, her husband and both her two boys all died at separate times. Oh. And I myself have been personally inspired by that kind of life experience because I would have thought, and I thought maybe even of myself, that I would have been a bitter person the rest of my life after that happened. And she is one of the sweetest, kindest people I have ever met. All she wants to know is about how you're doing and how the world is. And I started to then see this range of human emotions and the way we interact in the world. And it just kept me engaged and actually led to kind of this launch that we're going to be talking about as maybe we do this podcast and other ones.
Yeah. And you guys are kind of hearing it not first. I mean, it's really interesting. So Papa Frida is running a massive salon, a 7-figure salon and a couple dozen employees and hairdressers and all of that. But on the side is really ready to launch an extraordinary business. And it's a toolbox of sorts called Think 3. Mm-hmm. And we've used Think 3 together. You use it every single day, use it with your clients. And you guys will hear about Think 3 in the future as ways to follow Laurence, to learn these tools, tips, tricks, tactics, strategies of how to get a kind of like a edge up or a level up in their life and in their relationships. And you simplify the complex. That's one of the things that you do really well is you're very smart, right? You're a genius in that sense, but you can take a lot of complex and a lot of the noise of 2021 and the pressures we feel as humans in our relationship, in our finances, in our business, and then you make it very simple. So Think 3 is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think you're on the right track with that. I think all of us know that life is moving by really quickly today, and it's more complex. In some ways, there's more conflict. There's more, I'm not sure what to believe, where to go. So it's confusing. And when you think of a simple technology, for instance, like your phone, what do they keep doing to the phones? They keep adding new features, upgrades, and they add new features and new apps. What's the purpose of an app? It quickly gets you to something. It can be to entertainment, to find a direction, find a restaurant, keep track of your working out. So in essence, what I'm trying to do is do the same thing for people's minds, is to help them create little apps, so to speak, that they can access. Now, underneath them is powerful change in innovation that can go on in their personal life, whether it be like today, we're talking about communication, but just simple little things that we can look at quickly when we're in situations and go, okay, here's a couple questions I can ask myself, or here's something to remember and practice, because we don't need more complexity. The world is complex. Yes, we'll dig down into some of the things and why is it complex? But when you come out of it, it's got to be simple, because if you give someone a difficult workout program, a difficult diet program, any program that's difficult, we give up.
Yeah.
We just give up easy. We all do. It's the way the human brain. Don't feel bad if you're a listener out there and you've done that. That's just how the brain works. It makes us want to quit because it wants to just chill most of the time. So a lot of things I come up with are simple and easy. And what I hope to talk to you about today was something that I learned 20 years ago, and it was really about color personalities, but I expanded it to what I call the 12 color voices, but super easy to get, fun, actually. It's simple, but it's extremely powerful, because I would challenge not only you and all the people that I'm around, but every one of your listeners, that if you take this information, I guarantee you it will show up almost hourly, because we almost always are in a situation where we're either dealing with a person who's checking us out. If we're at a store, we're on the phone, maybe we're talking to a relative, we're working with a client.
Prospecting a business partner.
Prospecting, yes. And if nothing else, we spend most of our life doing what? Telling stories to each other. And what do we like to do with stories? We like to influence people. And you cannot begin to influence a possible customer or your mate or your child that you're raising. You can't have influence unless you understand the way they speak and where that comes from.
And so there's a lot of different personality typing systems. I mean, DISC, Myers-Briggs. The colors also can show up in like gemstones. I learned them as ruby, sapphire, pearl, emeralds, dolphins, kangaroos, lions. I mean, like there's farmers, or whatever.
I've heard them all.
So you have them all. What I love is the simplicity of the colors, and it is something that in every single conversation, whether we're on FaceTime or on the phone or in person, immediately colors come up. Even when we're talking about relatives and understanding them, our family dynamics, Dad, like it's like, oh, she's really in her red right now. And it gives us grace to understand. So I learned these, it was about 13 years ago, and it has revolutionized the way that I look at people, because now that I understand it, within about 30 seconds of a conversation, I usually can understand what probably someone's dominant color is, or what they're showing me at that moment by their language. Even sometimes by their dress, if they're in person, by their posturing, and sometimes even by the profession that they're choosing. I mean, it's just kind of amazing how colors will show up. But more, I think, I want you guys, why this is important is that I shared in one of the previous episodes, it was episode 5, leadership is an inside job. And I talked about how it is important to do the inner work on yourself, but the most important thing is also to value other people. And when you value other people, then you can lead them, you can influence them, you can make a difference in their life. But in order to value them, we need to know what is important to them, how they're wired. And these are the colors, which is really how we're wired. It's how God created us. Yeah. God created a multitude of, if we were all one color, it'd be so boring. There'd be no diversity or whatever. So let's talk about reds start. So reds, you guys are taking notes. I always say, the best leaders are excellent students. Reds, yellow, green, and blue. Let's talk about reds. Because they want to go first anyways.
Oh, they do. Well, you got to like red. And if you think of that color, which is one of the reasons I think the colors work well, is
perfect.
because there's a visual to them. You think of red as a strong color.
Yeah, dominant.
In our business,
Caution, stop. Directness, right?
If someone comes into my business and says, I want red hair, they aren't quiet, sheepish, reserved. Red hair says, I am here.
Yeah.
I am now.
And notice me.
Notice me, yes. So the first thing about reds is if they do, you're absolutely right. If you know anyone who's a leader, supervisor, manager, they tend to be reds. They like that position. Even if they just got hired a week ago, they will already think they're in that position. So they'll already start telling you what they would like to see done. These are the people who love the win. So they're uber competitive, and, if you start a sales promotion or some kind of thing that they can earn, promo, they're going to go like, I'm going to be number one. And so they are great in terms for other people to follow what they're doing.
And it's so funny. Jim Rohn, who's one of my first mentors in the network marketing industry, he would talk about, he wasn't necessarily saying red, because I sincerely wish to win, but I also sincerely wish for you to lose.
Yeah.
And that's a red. Like, I don't even want to win. I want you to lose. I want to pulverize you. They're also money motivated. Prestige, status, right? Name brands.
Very much, and you can see that in their clothing. They like to have
car they drive,
designer brands. Yes, and yes, they're proud of the fact that they're number one, and they would like people to see that because they've worked hard for that, and that was their focus, and they've achieved that. So they're more apt if someone comes in and they're dripping with brand names. I kind of know that I've got kind of a red going on in my chair.
Yeah.
And you can talk later about how you approach those. These are really confident people. They tend to speak directly, so they don't beat around the bush.
No.
So, and they'll do that. And they're their most fearless color voice. They're very strong. They're not afraid of most people in most situations.
Usually not afraid of conflict. They'll come at you.
Right. Now, they may have some internally, but they won't show it externally. But they're pretty much going to be on top of it. They love a lot of intellectual challenges. And these are the people out of the four voices that are the best at delegating tasks to other people. There are other colors that have a problem with that. Reds do not at all.
No.
And they're
the most susceptible to burnout because they take on a lot.
They can, but I'm going to tell you one other color voice that is more likely, and I'll tell you when we get to that why they are.
I have a feeling I know.
Yeah. You can typically identify a red because they're going to say, I want it done now.
Yeah.
Now. All caps,
Yeah.
N-O-W. Yes, they want it done now. And they're not.
Their emails might be in caps locks a lot.
Correct. And you may actually find that your excuses for not doing it now fall on deaf ears a little bit more. And that's both a good thing because they can hold people accountable. But we can talk about at some point where that can be a problem for them as well.
This color sounds super attractive. Tell me their weaknesses.
Well, this is the thing. When they're assertive, which they're asserting, they're trying to win, they're trying to get what they want. It's easy for them to slide over into that voice, which is the low performing or low results, where they get aggressive and dominating. And because they're bottom line people, they can easily sort of forget the humanity of other people below them or that they're working with. And other people will go like, my mother was really sick that week, so my sales dropped off or something. If they fail to sort of pick up on that cue, it can cause a rift. So when we speak, and of course we can talk about people being reds, but when I developed this, it was really the voices were about not labeling a person, because everyone that we test has all of these voices.
Yes, that's important to know. Actually, I'm so glad you mentioned that. We all have all four colors. Think of it like almost like a ratio or like a recipe, like a pie or a cake, is that somebody might be 50% red and then 30% yellow and then maybe 20% the other ones or whatever, right?
Sure.
So we all have it. And that's because we're made in God's image. And God is all of them. I mean, we see through the Bible and reading the Bible in the 66 books is that we've seen how God shows judgment and mercy, right? Love. He's everything. He's perfection. So we are made in his image. So we do have it. So and this is important to not feel like any color is better than another. What we want to do is we probably in future episodes and then in Think 3 content is how do you become the healthiest of your color? How do you maximize your color? And then when you find somebody who is a dominant in maybe an opposite color or an opposing color, a different color, how do you speak to them that motivates them, influences them, and gets them out of their own way to achieve their goals or find harmony in that relationship?
Absolutely. Because like in my business, I have clients come in that are across the spectrum. I have almost 40 employees that are across the spectrum of colors. And it's also being able to know when to use a particular voice. So if you get
the right situation.
Right. Because sometimes that may not be your dominant voice, but it's the one that's called for at that moment. So
like you're not a red at all.
No, not
But
really.
There are times you've had to use red.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
There are situations where you had to use red and where I might be dominant red or, a little larger percentage. There are times where I've had to move into maybe a lesser voice, which would be yellow. We'll talk about that next.
Yes.
Because I'm maybe in the situation, it's more appropriate. Right.
Correct. So like we were talking about some of the things that maybe are low level for a red, but when they're at their very best, that's where we get some of the traits that we really look forward to. Like this is where we get courage. Mm-hmm. Now it's interesting because you can learn to develop your own red voice so you can encourage yourself, but also being able to recognize when someone needs courage from you and you step into that voice and use it in an encouraging way.
Yeah, speaking into them and motivation or encouragement or belief.
Right. And how that might sound different is if a red is just in their average voice, they might go, well, you should just do it. You can do it.
Like you can do it.
Right. And
without having and if they're really low level, they're not even going to display empathy.
Right.
Like a really unhealthy red is going to lack empathy for people. They're not going to see them for where they are, what they have, and what they're dealing with.
Yeah, and it is one of the weaknesses of the red voice is it's not looking for that what about others and how do they feel because they're bottom line people. So a red they don't have to change. And that's what is important to your listeners is that this isn't about changing who you are. It's getting to be the best version of you are.
The healthiest.
And even more importantly, getting the best results from your relationships and your connection with people. So a red would say to someone else, if I go and say, just do it, because that's how I did it, that's all they're going to hear is, oh, you're telling me how to do it your way, but I'm not like you. Mm-hmm. Whereas they could use their red voice to encourage, I've seen your work. I know you can do it. You can do this. Mm-hmm. You're doing a great job. Don't be afraid. I'll be there. Matter of fact, we'll do this together. I'll go in and start and you finish it. That's the best way to use that courage, which Reds have, to be able to translate it to another voice rather than just show up as how you are, because that's the easiest thing to be is just, I'm just going to be who I am. But that's not an influencer.
Yeah.
And I love that you're working on leadership. Mm-hmm. And I use
all
that.
The time.
Yeah, and I use that as one of the things in the salon. But I transitioned my word leadership a little bit to this younger generation. And the way I translate it is instead of saying I want you to develop leadership principles so you can lead behind the chair, as we call it, I said I wanted you to become an influencer. And see, because of following YouTube and social media.
Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah.
Everyone gets that.
Absolutely. But it's also something that they can feel, wow, I would like to become that. Leaders, they sometimes think, I don't know if I want to be a boss. I don't know if I want to be in charge.
They think of management. They think of more responsibilities. But everyone wants to influence.
Of course they do.
Yeah, naturally.
And it's also, it creates a pathway for me when I'm trying to encourage them to grow, because most of them are young. They're in their early 20s, is I need to teach them a tool that they can easily understand will take them down a corridor that'll lead to their goals. What are they trying to achieve? Rather than just showing up in the world thinking that what's going to happen for them is because they just showed up somewhere. Like, oh, and then all this magic just, like a carpet rolls out in front of me. It doesn't work that way. So I need to show people pathways to things. So
yeah. When I see an unhealthy red, I also see When they're unhealthy, they tend to be easily angered. I see temper.
Yes.
I see the most aggressive form. I see outbursts. I also can see that in blues that just bubble out over nothing. Like they slam it down so long, they suppress it for so long, and then like boosh, they explode like a volcano. But like reds, they if they haven't done the EQ, the emotional intelligence work, or they haven't done like what I call the inside work, the dark and lonely work, or the spiritual practices of abiding in Christ, they will tend to be easily angered, and they will bulldoze over people. Yeah. And they'll like you said all the time, you say they'll win at any cost. Anything else, like kind of summarizing the red that we kind of need to know is that this really, we're just giving a 30,000 foot view today. But
I think if they can respect their power, these are power people, and a little bit goes a long way. And, they just think of themselves as being direct. And for instance, say, I'm just telling you how it is. But if they can be a little bit more understanding with that empathy thing, because sometimes they have this attitude of, I'm in charge and I'm going to get what I want.
My way or the highway.
It is. And they can get, here's the sneaky problem. They'll get success to a certain degree and for a certain length of time. But behind them, people are basically conspiring to leave because they feel intimidated, not heard. Mm-hmm. And if they don't bring people alongside of them, they'll have turnover in their organization or in their clients or whatever.
You just described my second network marketing company.
Yeah. And the other thing with red voice, I want people to just sort of know this, because in general, when we move out of even business situations, in relationships, red is the voice. And think of red. When you see red, there's like
inflammation
Fire. Or danger or something.
Stop.
When we get too much in their red voice, this is when people ruin relationships, and they create deep divisions, deep scars, because in the red voices, we say things we didn't want to say. We say it and we use the wrong words. We make people feel like you don't matter, and I don't necessarily need to be connected to you. So goodbye. And that's hard to roll back once you do that.
You and I dealt with this last month. I called you on a personal issue, and we had a person that meant a lot to us that had said something about me and in a red voice. And here we are 30 days later. It's not an issue of forgiveness. This is not an issue of, I forgive that person, but it's like, how do you crawl back from that? It's like, imagine taking a vase and you break it in pieces. Yeah, we can kind of patch it back together, but you can only break that vase so often. Or the old saying, you can't untoast toast.
Right.
Right? And so it like when push comes to shove and you go in your red and you don't have the control, when we think about the fruit of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22 through 23, we talk about self-control, that ability to rein in that sharp prickliness, like that, like dagger. The red tongue is sharper than any. And so if you find yourself, if somebody has ever given you compliments, like you're really direct, you're really assertive, you're a natural leader, you're really strong, or they've been like, wow, they've been like, you're really like, oh, what you say hurts me. You might be in your red a lot. So this is something to work on. And it's one of those, like, have self-awareness to say, and this was me. And I've shared this on several of the past podcasts, Puppet Free. Like, I talk about that in the height of my first run in network marketing, my red was so dominant. I was led by reds, red greens mostly. And so I modeled reds. We model what we see, not what we're told. And because of that, you're right, people were conspiring to leave me because they weren't feeling unified. They weren't feeling a part of it. And it was very much a me show. And I had to go through a massive spiritual awakening to tame the tongue and to really see people as Christ sees them, as, individual and unique and special, and to be heard. They're not challenging, but I've learned when not to say something. It's not always what to say, it's when not to say it, when not to combat, when to let it breathe, when to practice a holy pause. And for a red, and this is why I'm like kind of going on this one so much, is because it's me. I'm like, and I know that a lot of reds listen to this podcast, and a lot of reds in non-network marketing leaders are reds. So naturally, right?
Oh, great.
So
yes.
It's just kind of big. Okay, let's move on to yellow. And I love that you do make a sense. The colors make sense. Yellow is sunshine.
And
Yellow is
absolutely.
bright, right? Hello.
Who isn't happy when the sun comes up, right? It is great. So these are not surprisingly, these are some of the people that lead with a lot of a fun-oriented, happy, outgoing. You know, if you travel with these people, they're like, good morning. What are we doing? This is exciting. I'm glad to be here.
Glass half full.
What are our plans? Yes. Oh, what am I going to eat on the menu? The rest of us are kind of like, oh, give me a little time. Give me a little time yet. I'm not quite there. These are they're very optimistic people. They can be very enthusiastic. And we have a lot of those in hairdressing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A lot of yellows get attracted to
get a lot
kind
of
artsy,
right, because
creative.
there's a lot of social conversation going on. And
people. These are people.
And it's fun. Let's do this with your hair. Let's do this with that. These are the people that, you know, one of their mantras is, I like to play. I want to play, you know, and they are great because they're wonderful at lightening up the mood, the atmosphere. You need them in businesses or organizations because they remind us, stop taking everything so seriously.
Yeah.
Let's have a good time.
They make it fun.
Yeah.
Fun is their love language.
Yes. Yeah. And as much as the Reds want to get the reward, the Yellows want to plan the celebration.
Yeah, they're the party planners.
We're the party planners, absolutely. Like, give them that.
They're the social butterflies. They have the best parties, the best barbecues. Like, they're the person you call if you want to have an amazing rave. Like, they're going to manage it. They're going to have the biggest friends list. They're awesome.
Oh God, yes. They'll come in if they work in an office situation. Of course, people are out now because of COVID, but normally they come in the office and they're the first ones to talk about where are we going for lunch? Where are we going after work? We're going to get together. We're going to do this. So they're very nice and they're fun people to be around, and I like them. They're huge socializers.
Yeah, they're social butterflies.
So they have a very strong network of people that they like to run around, and at events or something, they are really powerful networkers. Mm-hmm. So when I do the color voices, I always ask, like, what's your primary and your secondary? So a common one is a red yellow. Mm-hmm. Terrific salespeople. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, terrific salespeople. I can meet everybody. I can talk to everyone, and I can help you purchase. I can sell. Yeah, and because you can take people through that journey. Because my fun side will keep you talking to me, and my sell side will get you to a point influence you. Yeah. So that's a very common combination as well. And be aware, though, they like to create new ways of doing things.
They love change.
Yeah.
They get bored really easily.
They're
like ADD, FOMO, like...
Yeah. I have some hairdressers that are real yellows, and they'll come over here, and they'll just show me a picture. Like, they'll just turn their phone and go, what do you think? And they don't go like, do you like that for me? Do you like the photo? Context. Do you think I should do that for... There's no kind. They're like, they just leave you guessing. I go, what? Yeah, that's cool. What is that for? Oh, I was thinking on doing that on this stylist over. Oh, okay. And keep in mind, because they're like this, they need their work or whatever they're committed to have a fun element to it.
Yeah.
You know, that they just want to infuse that into it. And that's a perspective for them, is the way they see life and work and relationships. And we can talk a little bit about where that works for them and where it doesn't.
Well, in network marketing, I'll share a great example, like tactical example. If you are not a yellow, but you lead a team of yellows, if you have yellow high producers and you want to keep them producing, you got to reinvent the mundane. You got the system, right? The system never changes. The fundamentals of business and network marketing, you talk to people, you send them to a simple message, you follow up and enroll, but you got to put together campaigns, challenges, blitzes, new rewards, new incentives. Yellows love recognition. They love to be like, oh my gosh, I got put on like a little flyer. I got put on the banner. I got like a little thing done for me, right?
Do they like your new merch and new bling? And
they love swag.
Oh my God, yes.
They love swag. They want to rep it. And I think even visually, I see a lot of yellows tend to have a very interesting style. They express themselves often in their hair colors. When I look at one of my girlfriend's team in network marketing, she attracts a lot of yellows. And I swear every unicorn, they're like unicorns. They have like purple hair, green hair. Like if you meet somebody that has like purple hair and green hair and blue hair, they're probably a yellow. They probably have a lot of yellow in them. Like they have the most damaged hair. They get their nails done. They have crazy style. They have long relationships. Again, socializers. They tend to be late.
Oh, I was just going to tell you.
They are so late.
If your meeting is at 10, you tell them 9:30.
Yes, you tell them 9:30.
If you tell them 9:30 for your 10 o'clock meeting, they'll be in about 10:15.
10:05, yeah.
They're still going to be late.
Yeah, they will.
They just, it's because of they play with everything, so they play with time.
Yeah.
So to them, it's kind of a general vague concept.
Yes.
Time. Like, yeah, you set a
sure,
time, but
ish.
it sounds like the meeting is in the morning.
Yes. Ish.
And I will show up sometime
Well,
in
and
the morning.
sometimes
Yeah.
what happens is they'll explain, and they're people pleasers. They like love people, they love the relationship, but they'll also say, "Hey, I'm so sorry," and they tell you this amazing story that they got distracted watching this really funny TikTok, or then they got in this
And they
or
got a
somebody
call.
called them, and then
I-
he said he needed something, and so they're so social and relational. So that will take them up. They're also messy. They tend to be messy. If they
yes.
don't have a large green side, they tend to be very messy. So the back of their car is filled with like 18 different half-filled bottles of water, and their house isn't super clean. Like they're just a hot mess.
Yeah, and if you're in an organization and not working on your own, but in most places we have certain responsibilities and sometimes systems to go through. They're not so apt to follow those. And so they can lose their focus easily. And they're just happy chasing, they're totally the squirrel.
Yeah. Let's dive into the weaknesses, the yellow weaknesses, because we know their strengths. They're fun, they're energetic, they're sociable, they're super likable, they're amenable, they're people. That's as a network marketer and entrepreneur. That makes sense. But what are some of their weaknesses? Distraction.
Oh, distraction. So the problem with that is that generally everyone has something important to do and it affects other people. And other people worry about them all the time, because if I give you that job or task, it's really important. Like, make sure that when you do this, you do that. They're going to more apt to forget those things because, the details, because they don't follow systems. Now, one of the colors totally likes to make systems.
Green.
And one follows them. But yellows are not so much about systems. They're kind of making it up as they go. So, they need lists, but they don't make lists.
No.
Right? Here's the system.
Their desk is a hot, it's like stacks of papers. You're like, where's your day planner? And they're like, I don't know, somewhere under here.
Yeah, you can give them a printed perfect list, and there's a color that does that for them. And then they take the list, and they don't even know where they put the list.
Yeah,
that's how
where's
they
the
are.
list?
Right. What's the system again? What was step 2, step 3? Oh, we actually have a system. Oh, I know we talked about that. Are we doing that still? They're that kind of person. So because they think, wrongly so, unfortunately, sorry, yellows, but they think they can multitask because they're doing a lot of different things, but there's no organization to it. So because of that, they're going to have to accept that people will put a little bit more limitations on them. And here's the big thing for yellows. They want to earn and maintain the trust of the people that they work with. So when things are important, they have to show that they can get out of fun and go, okay, but here's where I need to focus. Mm-hmm. Even if it's for a short period of time, if it's on the right things, then we'll trust you. If not, they're going to have people micromanaging them all the time. Did you do this? Did you do this? And it irritates them because that isn't fun.
Oh, they don't like to be in a box.
Oh, they don't like somebody saying did you do this? Did I check on you? Did you do it just like that? No, they don't. But if they want to maintain the freedom, and they are freedom independence people, right? They need to earn the trust by saying, but when it's important, I will show up and get this done. Mm-hmm. And that's really critical for them. Because if they don't, they will lose that trust and they'll tend to move on in organizations, or they get laid off or fired, or they just drift off again to more free-form environments.
Mm-hmm. So it's keeping it fresh, keeping it flexible, helping them possibly identify where they can maybe add accountability in their life. Like, I know a couple of yellow leaders that have had to hire virtual assistants or personal assistants to manage their calendar, because they're like, listen, I am so ADD, I am so distracted that I have to have this person in the Philippines manage my entire calendar, because I wouldn't even know when to call that customer, or I wouldn't know when to work out, or I wouldn't know when to stop and go spend some time with my kids or whatever. So you have to put systems in place, and it's also a part of submissive humility to say, I know my weaknesses, so I'm going to outsource to somebody that has the strengths.
Correct. And or know those moments those key moments, have something that cues you to say, now's when I have to move into one of these other voices, because I love every voice. I do. I fall in love with each of the voices for what they give. But if they don't remember that there are moments where I need to not say what I feel like being, and
they are feeling color,
because they certainly wouldn't want somebody to be constantly serious. They don't like being around like, why are you so serious all the time? Let's have fun. Well, they would want those voices to change a little bit as well. So they're great. Like I said, they're great for celebrating, and they lift people's moods. We need them. They just make everything. They're the lovers, the laughers. They banter. They ease tension in stressful moments. So they create an atmosphere of joy. No one wants to walk into a place that runs really well and it feels like it's a jail or a prison. No one like, okay, we all get it done right, but there's no fun and no smiling around. No, we need those people. But they just have to learn how to use a little bit of focus. And even if they're not going to be like that all the time, when it really matters, they need to know.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So
I love yellows.
It is communication. So I love my yellows. They're the funnest people to be around.
Oh my God.
Some of my best friends are yellow. It's great. Now we go into the greens, which kind of feels quite opposite of yellow. So instead of being motivated by fun, they're motivated by facts, figures, truth, systems, analytics. They are the most detail-oriented. Tell me about yellows.
Thinkers.
They're thinkers.
Yes, I happen to be. I lead with green. I'm a green blue. But I can tell you, we thinkers,
researchers.
We not only love to think, we are the people, and I know you've heard this before, we like to think about how we think about thinking. That's how deep we go. We get in a zone. So sometimes people will think we're a little stuck up or like, wow, you got an attitude. No, we're just deep in thought.
Yeah, but introspective.
Oh, yes.
That is funny, though, because I remember when I was probably like 16, 17 years old, and she's actually a leader in my team right now. She's listening to this right now.
Okay.
And she will share with other leaders on my team, because she's the only one that knows me from high school. And she'll say to leaders and that have never just met me, and she'll be like, you wouldn't believe I didn't like Rachel in high school. And she had a concept or a perception of me as being a little bit, not snotty, but kind of like I was just in my own and like I was better than it wasn't that feeling at all. But she didn't understand that I was constantly internalizing. I was in my green a lot in school and like thinking about things, and where I wasn't necessarily, school's not really a place for a lot of yellow, right? I got in trouble being in my yellow. And so it was funny because I was like, no. And whenever people misconstrue me as an introvert, it's often that I go into my green and they're like, what's wrong? I'm like, no, I'm just thinking.
Right. Exactly. And it is really a zone for us. It's because our creativity lives in creating solutions and answers.
Yeah.
A lot of your greens are entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So a lot of your listeners may be greens too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they are, and it doesn't mean they have to be solopreneurs or anything, but they tend to start a lot of businesses. They're the head of things. They're the person that if that's you out there as a listener, you'd know right away, because if somebody mentions a problem in a meeting or something, you already are seeing the system. Okay, if we did this and then we do this and then we get this, and
step
you can
1,
see
2, 3, and 4. We actually already have a spreadsheet already done before the meeting is over.
Exactly.
We're ready to go to the printer.
Yeah, they're like the jigsaw puzzle, and you're just spreading it out, and they go, "I've got the corner done already." Like what? Right? It's that kind of thing.
I'm still flipping over the middle section.
Right. I haven't figured out what it's a picture of yet. So these are very functional, productive people. They're very work-oriented, and like we said, logic-based. They love projects. They're always working. You talk to them, they go like, I've got so many projects going. Some people just say they're busy, but these people say, I got a lot of projects in the works, right?
Yeah.
And they're all their own projects, right? And these are, of all the colors, actually, whereas yellow is very optimistic and fun. Greens have a kind of a more thinking oriented, but they're very positive people. And their positivity comes from any problem can be solved with the right system.
Yeah.
And I'm the person to come up with it.
Now,
right?
I see that with healthy greens. What I see with unhealthy greens or in their low level use, I see them more pessimist or even just general realist. And they have no problem stating the fact. It's not about
Correct.
feelings. It's about facts. It's not about like yellow's all like, or blues are, and they're like, no, this is what it is. It's black or white. Greens are very black or white. It's this or that. It's yes or no. It's just, it's left or right. They're very delineated. They can see that without having an emotional attachment. They love knowledge.
Yeah.
They love learning, right?
Yeah, let me tag on to that because
Sure.
that you hit on something that actually is an interesting thing about greens.
Yeah.
And if you wonder where that pessimism comes from, greens actually are the one color that can actually see problems coming ahead of time before other people. Mm-hmm. They can smell it out. They can sniff it out. They can go, no, that's not going to work because these people are going to work. They're going to go in a different direction.
Because yellows are too optimistic.
Yeah, they're just
right. They're just too optimistic
right.
in the sense of they're like, it's gonna be fine. We'll
Right.
just do it. It'll be great. And then the reds are like, just get it done. I'm not thinking about it.
They're just pushing.
Like, just come on. We have an agenda. We have a deadline here.
Reds are going to we're going to make them do it,
Yes.
right? And the blues are sitting on. We'll talk about them. The blues are going to go on. I just want to do my job.
You're like, what's happening?
I don't even
here?
want to be part of this.
Can I get out of this meeting right now?
Right. So the greens are great that way. Now, this is the one group, though, that if you want to get under their skin, go complain and whine to them. This will drive greens nuts.
That when I'm in my green, it is the worst thing you could possibly do. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is, you cannot complain about what you permit. Is that not just the greenest thing you've ever heard in your life?
Yeah.
You can't complain about what you permit. And then when I'm talking to a blue, I'm like, oh, scale back on that green voice. That's not very empathetic there.
I know.
I'm just so factual,
Yeah.
you know?
But these people are big thinkers. They can come up with systems. They can solve a lot of things. They can see problems coming. So, yeah, they do have a little bit of an ego around their abilities. And they are technically, even all the colors think they can be multitaskers. But if there is one that can multitask, it tends to be a green.
Mm-hmm.
They're
organized enough.
They're very, very organized. They have systems. You go to their home. They show you the closet. All the blue clothes are here. All the white clothes, all the black
Why
clothes.
are you triggering me right now?
Yeah, don't.
My entire closet is color coordinated.
Yeah, if you go in and you get something out of their drawer in the kitchen, and if you don't put it right back there, they're going to
tell you.
They're going to tell you, no,
I got to tell you a story
that
about this.
spoon goes over here.
Yes. So my first, when I moved out of Wisconsin, I moved to Arizona, and I rented a room from a girl at church. So I moved down to Arizona, met a girl, paid for a couple $100 a month to rent a room in her little house. And she was a heavy, heavy green. I mean, if there was 90% green, I mean, she was just so there. Her house was meticulous. It was very clean. And I had never really lived under that leadership, right? And I remember that she had in a double sink, you know, the little divider in the middle. And in one side of the sink, she had a dish rack where you dry the dishes, right? And I remember the first time, and I didn't know how to cook. I did fried eggs and toast for dinner. I had no idea. I was 20 years old. And I remember putting my one dish, one plate, one frying pan, one fork, just spatula to dry in that. And after a couple of nights of that, she happened to give me a sit-down lesson to say that once the dishes were done washing, you put them away. And I remember being why do I have a dish rack that, if you don't want me to put them there, why is it even there? And then probably a month or so later, we had another, again, they're not going to be a big confrontation. They're going to tell you what it is, but they're not going to be as inflammatory as a red.
Correct.
It's more logical. Doesn't this make sense? It's better this way. And she told me she had a couch, a little living room set. And there was a little tray, probably about 8 by 10 on the coffee table. And I'd left the remote on the arm of the sofa. You should see my dad's face right now. Oh gosh, we're green, right? And then this is a flaming emerald green, right? And she explained, and she actually wanted to show me visually. So she grabbed the remote and then took it to the tray. And she goes, see this tray? This is where the remote belongs. This is its home.
Tray.
It's the
garage.
The remote's home.
It's the garage for the remote.
She's doesn't it look better here? And I'm 20 years old. I'm I'm like, where am I living? Right? It just was, because I had no concept of colors back then. I'm like, this girl's OCD. And which can sometimes in a low level unhealthy, we could see that with a green for sure, which is very, very obsessive and, you know.
Yeah. If you that could be a green when they get skewed, is that does promote that OCD-ness, you know, whereas yellows are more ADD.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
They all have their acronyms.
And the red voice will give you PTSD.
Yeah, right. It's just so bad.
Yes. So here's the thing too, that remember for greens, or if you're talking with greens, is they are the most self-critical.
Yeah.
They beat themselves up a lot. And you can imagine
and they're critical of others. They are.
Yes. Well, we tend to transfer that, which, you know, if whatever we beat ourselves up with, we beat up, we use the same stick on other people, sure. Right? And so, but you can see why they're critical, because I should have thought that through. I had a system. I did all of that.
Is this the biggest perfectionist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is the biggest perfectionist. Mm-hmm. And if you mix red and green, which is a common thing, you get that in engineers and people like that. Sure. But both of those tend to be not as people-oriented as blues and yellows. So you can sometimes get people whose social alacrity is a little bit stunted when they're red and greens, mm-hmm. because they don't understand people's feelings. Why we have to take that into consideration, right? Yeah, you know.
Like, shouldn't they just get over it and just do it and do the job and prospect? Yeah. And why are they all up in their fear and their self-limiting beliefs? Like, that's just it. Like, you just follow the simple 4-step PDF that I printed out for you, color-coded and laminated. You'd be able to get over your fears.
Right.
And tackle everything.
Everything can be solved. Right. So here's where we run into then some of the problems with the greens, because first and foremost, they're workaholics. Mm-hmm. They're great if they work in your organization, because they will do the work of 10 people and they just get out of their way.
Yeah.
These people are competent. They're productive. They know how
especially if they have tasks, a tracker.
Yes. The challenge is if you work with them or they work for you, is remembering to compliment them and let them know. Now, everyone needs that at work. I understand that. But these people will go on vapors. They don't need much, but they're so easy to take for granted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they are also exceptionally loyal.
Right.
When they commit to something, they might take a long time. In network marketing, I want to just pivot here.
Sure.
In network marketing, greens might be the hardest to sell. They're the most analytical. Like at our company, they review every science thing, every study, every patent, like everything, right? But so they might be the longest to close, but when they finally make their decision, because they have all the facts and the data and the information, they've done all their research and due diligence, they're in it. And so you will, as a leader, if you're not aware, you will take them for granted because they are so stick and they're so consistent and all that sort of stuff.
Extremely reliable.
But you're right, they need vapors. They don't need a ton, but just like a little love tap.
Yeah, and because they're workaholics, they have to really, these are the people that burn out the fastest. Mm-hmm. Reds can take out their kind of stuff on people. Mm-hmm. Yellows like roll with it. And
water off a duck's back, right?
Right. In the blues, you'll find out follow systems differently rather than create them. And so they have to be careful. And whereas reds are your great delegators, greens are just the opposite.
Yeah. They check on everything.
Right. Because they don't want to delegate anything. Why?
Yeah. Because they can't get it done as well as them.
Exactly. Yeah. I created the system. I saw it.
You don't know. You're going to mess it up. Don't touch my PowerPoint. Don't touch it. You're going to mess up the font.
Right. So I'm a green, right? So I'm that kind of person who might take, say, a weekend and decide to clean my whole apartment, rearrange it. And then at the end of the night, as I'm getting ready, I'll get ready for bed, and then I'll one last time go and turn on the light in the office just to look at it. Look at what I created. Yeah, and that's a turn on. I know it's a sickness I'm getting treatment for.
I know. And by the way, guys, he's to all the ladies out there, he is single. Please apply within asksoulceo@gmail.com. But I will say, it's so funny. As a green, I walk into your office, your video suite, your media production room, and then you go through and you have color-coded files on not only on your wall, color-coded for each business that you run, but then you also go into the walk-in closet through the bathroom, and there's all these files and all it's laminated in systems, greens. It's really funny, guys.
That's right. I'm holding up my hand of guilt now. There it is. Okay.
All right, let's go to the blues.
The blues. Well, these are cool people.
I like the blue. Like when we think about green, I do think about order. I was thinking about money. I think about and then when I think about blue, I think of tears.
Well, see, this is where the blues get a little nervous. They're going to talk about me.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, they're not going to call on me, right?
Is this not going to be good? I don't know. I'm afraid to hear this. Okay, well, first of all, let's talk about a typical blue is by nature a kind of very sensitive, sort of empathic individual.
Yeah.
And these people, they're kind people. Matter of fact, when we talk about them, a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, Jane, she's so sweet."
Yeah.
And if these people have one thing that rolls off of their lips easier than anything else, it's "aw,
Yeah.
aw." You know, you tell a story, "aw," yeah. Right? People even put that in social media, AWWW, yeah. Right? These are really kind, and they're very, very loyal people. So you've got greens. We create the systems. Reds, well, I'll run the dang system.
Yeah.
And blues go, I just want to follow the system. Yeah. Right? Because they're
How can I help?
Can I
help? And like, is there a way I can volunteer in my extra time with all the other charities that I'm doing and nonprofits? I'd love to, take this shirt off my back for you. Yeah.
And these are heart people and they're connection people. These people really give your business or your organization. This is the heart.
It's the mission.
These are the heart people because their mantra, the flag that they carry all the time is people, relationships, and our connections are the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And they're beautiful in your business because they remind us of why we're really here in the first place. Mm-hmm. The same thing with God's love. I mean, that's the first and foremost, best, most powerful thing he gave us. And that love was his connection to us. And blues remind us that no matter what we do, just as Soul CEO is about profits plus purpose, it's this thing is remembering we're only here really to serve people's lives and let's make profit doing it. And that's kind of how I address my business as well. These are people that are just really nice and they love relationships. They're the nurturers. Because of these people, they make wonderful friends. Yeah. Wonderful family.
And they actually, of all of them, they have the longest relationships. Like a lot of blues that I know have friends from kindergarten.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they don't lose relationships. Like it is the number one priority is people to them.
Yeah. And when you're hurting and when you're down and when you're feeling bad, this is the only color that truly, truly wants to hear about it. Most of us go, "Hey, how's it going? Please don't tell me."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But
because greens want to fix it.
Greens, we want to fix it.
Reds don't have time for it. And yellows are like, it's really uncomfortable. I really just
kind of a downer.
Yeah, you're really like, oh gosh, you're cramping my style.
You're kind of bumming me out. That's kind of a bummer for you, but I'm going to go find somebody else to play with. And I'll come back when you feel better.
Yeah, let me know when you're over that.
So
the blues will like cry with you. They're the shoulder. They're the save the world. They're the recyclers. They're even like their clothing. I see like natural clothing, linens. They don't tend to be. I don't always see as like yellows are more extravagant in their appearance. I see blues more natural often. They're, into things like that are like organic and they just think of larger connectedness, even with like Mother Earth.
Yeah, because that's their important thing. And they're wonderful followers. And remember, if you're building an organization, you need followers. Mm-hmm. You need it in your family and your relationships. Not everyone can be the let's do it my way, or I think we should do this.
GSC,
you want somebody who goes like, I'm good, I'll go with anything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you have to appreciate them for that. These people, besides being hearts, are very forgiving. So because they are sensitive, a lot of the other colors will sometimes trample on them, take advantage of them. And sometimes we have to remember that. But despite that, they will keep coming back time and time again. You could yell at one in a fit of you lose your emotional composure. And if you come back and go, oh, yeah, I didn't mean to do that. They're like, oh, that's okay, honey. I know you were just upset and angry, right? These are the best. Yeah. You run into them with your cart in the grocery store and you feel bad, but they turn around and go, sorry, was I in your way?
Yeah.
They're bleeding from the ankle. It's like, no, that was me actually. But these people are always saying sorry. All the time.
Always. They're like, they're professional apologizers. Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm sorry for saying sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry for saying, yes, exactly.
And when I think about spiritual gifts, like where a red might have a spiritual gift of leadership, a yellow might have a spiritual gift of exhortation or encouragement, a green might have a spiritual gift of discernment and wisdom. a blue has a spiritual gift of mercy, and they have the ability just to extend God's grace and mercy to you. They really show that so well, but they do tend to be abused in that sense. These are people that I see go in debt for other people. They'll take, again, like the shirt off their back for other people. Blue parents, if they have a child that is dysfunctional, they tend to rescue them. They tend to come to their rescue. Like say they're into drugs, or they're in and out of jail, or they're just being
Good
like,
point.
they will entitle them. And they'll also be delusional in the sense of like, oh, well, I'm just giving them money because their kids need food. It's like, well, no, they're still buying drugs. And so I see blues taken advantage of a lot because they are terrified of confrontation. One of my best friends is a blue center with a green, and she literally sweats at the idea of any minor conflict. Even like case in point, we had a bit of a compliance issue in her team that kind of came up, and it was actually quite simple. We needed to sign some documents, and we needed to change some of like the enrollers in the team to make sure it was right, that their person was enrolled into the right person. And this happened, it was a situation that happened 5 years ago, and she's like, did I do the wrong thing? Are they going to be mad at me? I'm like, honey, you're fine. Like it's totally okay. You did not do it. She was so worried. This is a people pleaser.
Oh yeah. I can have some of my blues or some of my best employees. And every now and then I have to speak to an employee about something. It might be like, oh, do you remember what her email? It can be anything. And I go, can I talk to you? And they go, am I getting fired?
Yeah. Am I in trouble?
No, you've been working here for 18 years and you're a wonderful employee. Yeah. One day I decided, I think you have to go. No, it's you're absolutely right. They don't like conflict. And what's nice is they don't generally create conflict in your organization. You need some people that just keep smooth waves. And they do like things to stay the same. So don't move their stuff. Don't mess their stuff. They don't like when you touch their stuff. Don't go in their house and say, this would be nice. Or no. They kind of like things that stay the same.
Yep.
And you think of that because it's a continuity of relationship. Don't change it. I like it like this. They love tradition. They love rituals. But now there are a couple things, though, that can create problems for them, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
they bleed. They bleed blue.
They bleed blue. And I know if you're a blue, and I am a green over a blue, so I know what this is. I've lived it. We can be, yes, I know you've heard it, a little too sensitive, right? Because everyone else thinks like, wow, do I got to walk on eggshells around you? And when our blue voice gets too bad, it acts like this. People are afraid to approach you. They're not sure what to say to you. So where with reds, they're afraid maybe I'll get you upset. Yeah. I might make you cry.
Yeah.
Or these are the people that look upset and they won't tell you what it is. Like, what's the matter?
Nothing.
How are you doing? This is what they do. I'm fine. Right. So, it doesn't work. And part of the reason for that is they're the one color that has the hardest time, which red has the best time at it, but blue has the hardest time with boundaries.
They can't say no.
They can't say no. Why is that they can't say no?
They can't let you down.
They can't let you down. And what happens is in their mind, a boundary of any kind is a barrier between you and me.
And connectedness.
And their connection. And they're all about relationships. So even the smallest amount of boundary. And the other thing is because relationships are so valued, they give up so much of themselves just to keep the relationship. Yeah. I'll sacrifice anything. And they'll hold that in for a long time and they'll be forgiving. But you need to know one thing. If you abuse a blue for a long time or you betray them, they will be bitter forever.
Yeah.
They can hold a grudge and a resentment like none of the other colors. As gentle and soft as they are, you are dead to me after a certain point.
One of my ex-family members was a dominant blue, and he would hold things forever. But after years and years and years, there would be an occasional moment where he would explode. And it was because he stifled it, because he didn't want to break any of that connection. He didn't want to hurt anybody. He was trying to please everyone. I do see that blues, again, they tend to, one of the things as a network marketer, just again, I love these little side notes. for the soul CEOs is blues also hate public recognition for the most part. And so if you have blues on your team, that personal side note, that side conversation, pulling them aside, a little gift, a handwritten note for a blue, oh my gosh, handwritten, like that little special note, that special little gesture, they're typically not the ones that want to be super praised and out in front. And my blue inside of me, because I'm red first, then next blue, and then next green, is when I look at my blue, I actually hate being edified in front of people. Like, I've gotten better with it with time, which has been removing the ego, removing what people think, and that happens through spiritual practices. But I remember when my CEO called me out. I didn't know he was going to do it in front of a group of like 250 qualifiers on a trip. We were in a Mediterranean cruise. Remember, you were with me?
Yes.
And he called me out as the #1 producer. So you'd think that my red would be so excited to hear, like, I was #1. I mean, I won this trip, all in 8-day Mediterranean cruise. I got to bring you and your girlfriend at the time on. Yeah. He's single, guys. He's singles. So, ladies, I know. So, but listen. My blue, because of my blue is still very strong, I was so embarrassed. I knew I was #1. I knew I was the best, but I would rather him show me, like, hey, let me pull you aside. Let me take you on a special dinner, just us, where I can recognize you. The public accolades for a blue, I'm like, oh, I wanted to shrink and hide. Because it made me feel like I was hurting other people because I was better than them.
Yeah, and blues don't want to really be in the spotlight. Mm-mm. And you know, for your listeners too, if you're talking to someone that you recognize, and that's the beautiful thing about this system is you can recognize colors really quickly. This doesn't take a lot of skill.
No.
And it's not hard to understand.
It's just practice.
And eventually you just see the world in these. Matter of fact, you don't go, I'm going to pull out my color system. You just see people with those colors.
It's like lens.
Right.
Like glasses that you wear.
Yeah. So if you're going to honor a blue, and I do this in the salon, yes, you can call them out publicly, but what I do sometimes is I walk up to them and be very specific with your praise. You can say, oh, what you did and what you accomplished, whatever, but somewhere in there put a line that says, you know, that's what I love about working with you. Mm-hmm. I'm so proud to have somebody like you on my team. Mm-hmm. The praise about the relationship will carry more weight than any kind of money or prize or trophy or thing. And see how powerful that is. But if we just remember that and honor and say, I want to make sure that I'm giving you all the perks and benefits that come with us having this relationship. Because they're loyal. They want to stay there. And when you tell them that, I literally told a blue that I made some praise for her. She was walking out of the salon. She works for me. She's worked many years for me, decades. She turned to the client that I was speaking to and she says, now you know why I keep working here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I specifically called her out for her traits and our relationship mm-hmm. and what I valued. Mm-hmm. And that's the point of these. Because, you know, if this is a little parlor game and people go, well, that's kind of cutesy or whatever, you're missing the enormous power that sits underneath this. Because as we talk about, nothing in life happens until someone feels something.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be an influencer, you need to make people feel something.
Yeah.
So,
and it's the languages, it's an understanding. Like if a red speaks German, yeah. A yellow speaks English, green speaks Japanese, right? And then a blue speaks en français. It's French, right? It's the romantic language, right?
That's beautiful.
If I'm a red and I'm talking to a blue, I need to speak to her or him in French. And so when we can meet them in their language with their motivation, understand them. And what I love about this too is when I see the people in my organization or in my network or my spouse, and I see their colors, them in a specific color or in their dominant color or just knowing them in general. And let's say they're at a low level or an unhealthy version of it. Mm-hmm. Because I understand it, the lens my glasses are on of how I see people, I have a lot more grace for them because I'm like, they're probably stressed out. Oh, it's the red that's overexerted, or it's the green that's taken on too much as a workaholic, and that's why that they've responded this way, or this is a blue that's been taken for granted. And so I can see that, I can love them, I can meet them where they're at, I can honor them. I think this has been an awesome kind of introduction. Obviously, the longest podcast yet. If you get to know me and Papa Free, it is hours. I
was
going to
say sorry, but then that would be the blue side.
I know, right? I'm so sorry that I just blessed you with all of this. It is good. So, guys, you'll be the first to know as Papa Frida, Laurence Seybold, launches Think 3. Super excited about this enterprise, and really more about a movement of helping people recognize the potential of themselves, their relationships, and create systems and tools to help them succeed in an ever-growing, changing, and fast-paced world. Think 3. So stay tuned for all of that, guys. And if you loved this, take a screenshot right now, and you want to share it to your Instagram stories, tag me at SoulCEO, Hit that subscribe button and leave a 5-star rating. And if you can, leave a review as well. And more importantly, guys, if you guys have questions, or if you'd love for me to train your organization, if you can get at least 25 people on a call or a Zoom, email asksoulceo@gmail.com with some topics and some times, and my assistant will get back to you at her earliest convenience with my availability. I'd love to train your organization, whether in network marketing or students or entrepreneurs, to teach them these tips, and maybe we could come in together. Maybe Papa Free, would you do it?
I like that idea.
I like it.
The green part of me loves that idea.
That sounds awesome. And the red part of me is like, let's win. All right. Guys, I love you. Appreciate you. May God bless you, keep you, and bring you prosperity this week as you abide in Him. This is another episode of the Soul CEO podcast, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rachie.
Bye.